Hi there. This is Dr. John Whitcomb talking about ultra-processed foods really are a problem. The Brazilians were the first ones to advance this idea. Interesting, not from North America, not from Europe. The Brazilians, they're doing some good science, so they noticed that if you eat more than 20% of your calories from ultra-processed food, that you had an increase in mortality and coronary artery disease and dementia a couple of years ago, and we've reported on that in this column. Now, there have been some studies saying, no, it's not that big a problem, and the French and the English each put out a study. So time to look at a meta-analysis of what do all the studies put together. So in the journal Advances in Nutrition, a study comes out with a meta-analysis that looks at all the possible studies that look at the topic ultra-processed food. 4,500 articles. And they only found 25 that had real scientific vigor and were published in English. That was part of their criteria. And then they went and looked through their statistical methods and found out that in fact there's a consistently positive association between high ultra-processed food and increased risk in developing diabetes, 37%, hypertension, 32%, hypertriglyceridemia, 47%, low HDLs, 43%, the whole package. Basically, it says that tilt is real, it's a real phenomenon, and it confirms the Brazilians. Ultra-processed food is a problem. So what is ultra-processed food one more time? Basically, it's foods that are ready to eat, ready to heat, industrial preparation made largely or entirely with substances extracted from food, often chemically modified, with additives and a small proportion of whole food. So that includes soft drinks, packaged snacks, sugar, breakfast cereals, cookies, processed meats, packaged, frozen, stable, shelf-stable meals, flavored yogurts, low-calorie products, low-fat products, breakfast cereals, modified, fortified with beneficial nutrients, aka the whole grocery store. This is a problem. We Americans are thought to be eating some 75 to 80% of our calories from ultra-processed food. And just what is the problem? What's happening with ultra-processed food? And here's my take. Your mitochondria, where you make your energy, 10% of your body weight is mitochondria. You have 5,000 of them in every heart cell, every brain cell, 7,000 in your retina. An ovum and a woman has 100,000. Muscles, 200 or 300, if you're not in shape. Mitochondria are your energy factories, and they're touchy little devils. They are miracles of biology, in that they can extract the high energy that's stored up in carbs and fats, but they like to either have carbs or fats, but not both. Ultra-processed foods oftentimes mix both, and they purify them so much that the calories get into you so quickly that the mitochondria are overwhelmed, and that leads them to not being able to process the fat. And mitochondria have to have a place where energy can go. If you're not exercising, there's no ADP in your cells because you've already made all the ATP. You've filled up the tank of energy molecules, and the waterfall doesn't have any water to fall. Has no depth to it. And so your mitochondria get all these electrons that start backing up, and they start escaping, making reactive oxygen species. But what we do see is you also start developing visceral fat. When you get ultra-processed food, you start developing visceral fat, and that includes fat in your pancreas gland, in your beta cells, and in your heart and in your gut and everywhere. And visceral fat is intensely inflammatory. And that may be the real reason ultra-processed food is dangerous. It makes you and forces you to make visceral fat. How do you get rid of visceral fat? First and foremost, stop eating ultra-processed foods. That's it. And how do you know when you've eaten enough, when you've lost enough weight? You've lost enough weight when you can see six-pack abs and you can see the pulses in your wrist again. They've disappeared because you have endothelial dysfunction from the visceral fat inflammation being put out. That's a hard road hoe, but it means no sugar, no salt. This is exactly what most of our dietitian people say. Whole foods. There's even a one diet plan says the whole food diet or the whole 30. Most my favorite recent one is managing diabetes. There's multiple authors. Pritikin did this, Esselstyn did this. Multiple authors have shown that we can fix you by doing all these things. So consider that. What will work for me? I tried going without eating any ultra-processed food for a month, and my blood sugar consistently dropped into the 90s instead of the 110s. That's interesting. Could work for you too. Ultra-processed food is a real problem. Pay attention. We'll talk more about it.